live. Woo! Oh, man. What's up? Yeah, a few minutes late, but 5 minutes late. Better late than never. What's going on? What's going on? Sip it to hair on. Back for more. How did you hear about this? Did you see my post yesterday? Did you get an email? Or did you just happen to be here right now? Let me know. Send me a comment real quick. Let me know. I'm curious. I'll wait a minute. And then we'll do our thing. Okay. Oh, hold on. I gotta put it up there. Y'all doing all right? Saw me pop up. Okay. Shaky camera work. Email. Sip it to hair on. Got the email. Great. Anyone else get an email? Did you get an email about this? Did you see my post? Let me know. Just here by chance. Beatrice Dog. Just here by chance. Instagram notification. Okay, email, just here by chance, Instagram notification. Anyone see yesterday's post? Another one popped up while I was going. David_Herod Official popped up while I was going live. Okay. Okay. All right, I'll wait a few more, just about, let's say 20 more seconds. Sip it to Heron saw the post and the email. Thank you for staying on top of everything. Sip it to Heron. Sip it to Heron comes up with some good questions. So really just, it seems like a lot of people happen to be here, right? Huh? Yes? Sip it to Heron, are you the only one on here who saw the email? Or maybe not. Okay. I gotta move it up. I kind of tend to lower my arms when I'm walking, and I need to hold it up, right? Hold it up, I'll hold it up. Okay, so apparently some of you just like to wave. Many of you just like to watch. A couple of you took the time to say, I got the email, which was great. And some of you just happened to be here. It's nice to hear how you get here. I'm always kind of curious about that. Okay. All right, here we are. Just you and me. And last week was a little bit hectic. I had a bunch of art handlers here doing stuff, so I really couldn't focus too much on things. It was kind of crazy, but for those of you who were here, you got to see sort of an inside scoop behind the scenes of how this stuff works, right? And that was pretty cool. So there were a lot of packing. I didn't post that, but for those of you who actually caught it live, you got to see sort of the behind the scenes. Okay. A couple of quick things before I get into it. I've got some notes here that I'm referring to. The first one is I have a new print that is available on my website. If you go to howardsherman.com, there's a link in my profile. If you go to howardsherman.com and then you click on available prints, there's a brand new hand-signed, hand-numbered, limited edition print available. And there aren't that many of them, so you might want to jump on it and grab it. If you go to howardsherman.com, click on available prints, you will see it. You'll be able to get it there. They're limited edition, and there's one. So now is the time to pull the trigger on that bad boy. Another thing is I've just opened an exhibition the other day at a gallery in Houston, Texas, and they have okay, I lost you for a second. I just opened an exhibition at a gallery in Houston. There's a really amazing catalog available for sale. If you contact Fultz Fine Art, you can grab a catalog with an essay, a really killer essay by art critic Todd Camplin, an essay by the owner of the gallery, Sarah Fultz, and I myself wrote a really great short statement along with some killer images of mostly brand new work. So I highly recommend you contact the gallery. There's links to that in several of the posts I've made on Instagram over the last few days. But the best way is to join my email list to get all that information. So if you're not on my email list, go to howardsherman.com, click contact, hit the black sign up button and subscribe. Subscribe there. But you can also contact the gallery directly to buy those catalogs. And links to that are on my posts. But get on my email list. Okay, so I got through that business pretty quickly, and this is what I wanted to do today. One more thing I want to remind y'all. Most of these, not all of them, but most of these posts are also available at howardsherman.com. If you missed the live, you can see them. They're all posted on my website at Live from the Studio. So you go to howardsherman.com and click on Live from the Studio, and you will see some of these previous videos, and I think you'll find them very helpful. I'm on here to help, okay? Now, speaking of which, I'm gonna go into today's thing. So, I know a lot of the people on here are beginning artists or artists looking for some sort of help or advice. I try and make these for everyone and not just for... Sorry, I lost you again. I try and make these for everyone and not just for artists, but I know that there are a lot of artists on here asking questions and stuff, and I previously asked y'all to email me questions and things you want me to talk about. I've mentioned that repeatedly, and a couple of people have taken the time to do that. One person who took the time to do that a couple of weeks ago took the time to do that after eating an edible and proceeded to send me, Jesus, it felt like 30 questions. It's crazy. And there's no way I could answer all of them. But I reread it, and a couple things came to mind. The first one is, much like most of the questions that I get, a lot of y'all already know the answers to many of the questions that you ask me, and you're simply asking me because you're looking for permission or validation of things that you already know. So you should keep that in mind, okay? But what I tried to do is I tried to pick out a couple of the questions from this edible artist email, and some of the questions I picked out are questions that have been asked to me that I haven't gotten to either on Instagram Live or through an email. There's a couple of recurring questions, and I'm going to try and handle those. I picked out a couple of them. I actually picked out 3, and because by the time I get done with that and dealing with those 3, I think we're gonna sort of hit my self-imposed time limit of close to, somewhere between 25 and 30 minutes. Because the ones I used to do at the beginning of the pandemic when I first started doing this, were going too long. They're like 45 minutes. It's too long. You don't want to hear me go on for fucking 45 minutes. I don't want to hear me go on for 45 minutes. I'm getting kind of sick of myself talking already, okay? So, anyway, okay. So here's the first question that I got from her edible-induced email. Have I ever considered teaching at the university level? Yes, I have. I actually think I'd be really great at it. I just, to be honest with you, I did do some adjuncting several years back at various community colleges and art school, and it just, I'm trying to think of what happened. Well, the number one thing is it just at the adjunct level, it just didn't pay very well, and that actually motivated me to try even harder to just sort of push the studio practice and live off my work. But there are other levels where it pays better, and I just got so busy in the studio and things started to cook that I never really focused more on that. I had never attended the CAA conference. I've never really, I just haven't really investigated it all that much, you know? So in recent years, I've just been focused on making the work, and then I've been selling the work one way or another, and doing that, and ending up probably making more money than I would have if I would have been teaching. So, but that's also, you know, you got to be willing to put your balls on the chopping block to live that way too. And I think that one of the benefits to teaching is you've got a stable set salary coming in every month, every 2 weeks. There's all kinds of other benefits, but yes, I've thought about teaching. I haven't ruled it out in the future. I think I have a lot to offer that many art professors don't meet as far as professional practices go and living in the real world doing this. I think I'd be great at it. To be quite candid, and I'm sure there's some art professors maybe watching this. I mean, one of the reasons I've been apprehensive about going down that track too is the bureaucracy, the red tape, and the political correctness of the current environment. I find all of that very, very distasteful, and a real hindrance and a roadblock to actual learning. So, especially the red tape and the bureaucracy of it all, you know. But they need to pay good art professors, like any other professors in other departments. They need to pay them right, and they don't. Especially the adjuncts. The adjuncts get completely raped financially, and I really have no idea how to fix that problem, and I haven't really put any kind of time or investigation or concern into fixing it. I love doing the visiting artist gigs. I think they go really well most of the time for me, and they come up every so often. I love doing that. It's really stimulating, and it can be kind of lucrative too, which is cool for a day or two or three when I go somewhere and do that. So that answers the first question. If you want me to come visit your school or something, I'm happy to talk to you about that as well. Send me an email. I don't know how that would work during a pandemic, but you know, just I'm talking under, you know, normal times. Okay, so that's that. Here's question number 2, and I get this one all the time, and I get it from people who kind of already know the answer to it. They're just looking for validation or permission. Should I get an MFA? Should I get my Master's of Fine Arts? Okay, here's the deal about the MFA, okay? Before I get into this, I want to say I'm actually a big believer in education, even I'm a big believer in higher education, formal education, even if it means taking on some debt. Okay, they can repossess your car, they can repossess your house, they can never repossess your education. And without your education, you're screwed. Having said that, I wouldn't go $100,000 in debt. I wouldn't go into an incredible amount of debt that you can never climb out of to get the education, especially with an art degree is even trickier in that regard, you know. And there are a lot of people who do that. I've got student loans. I'm still paying student loans off from graduate school, but I did not go 6 figures into debt for it. And, some of you are going to bet on very few of you, but some of you might bet on yourselves and do that. Maybe you get into some really amazing school and you don't get enough grants or funding, and you have to do loans. But I don't recommend 6 figures. I recommend keeping the loan amounts down to as little as possible and get as many grants and other things as you can. Or, you know, there's a lot of, I didn't come from this background at all, but there's a lot of people with rich parents who pay for them to go to art school. And hey, that's fine too. So if you've got rich parents or you're loaded and you decide you want to go to art school, hey, great, more power to you. That was not my situation at all. So anyway, don't take out some low interest loans if you have to, but be careful about it. That's all I'm saying. I think going to art school, like going to any other school, can be a very, very positive, informative experience. I actually had 10 years off in between undergraduate and graduate school. And during that time, it allowed me to have a lot of really crappy jobs that I hated. And so when I went back really, really ready to do it. And I knew I was taking out loans to do it. And I treated graduate school like a damp rag that I just wrung dry. And I was fortunate because I had there were several other students there who had some time off in between undergraduate and graduate school, many of them in their late 20s, early 30s, like I was at the time. And they were really ready to be there because they'd had tons of like really crappy jobs in the real world. And so they knew like, hey, I'm really serious about this. I'm mature enough. The people who really, quite frankly, there were a lot of people who, when I was in graduate school, like anyone else, they had no business being there. Somehow they got let in, and they were either too immature or too lazy, too uninterested to be there. There were a lot of people that were there also that, just wanted to be a professor. They happened to, I compare notes with people all the time about this particular issue. And wherever they went to school, it's the same recurring theme. I was there with a lot of people who just wanted to teach. They wanted to be a professor. They could have just as easily been an English professor or a chemistry professor or a history professor. They just happened to like art a little bit more, thought art would be a cooler thing to teach. I was very shocked when I first got there about that because an MFA is not supposed to be preparing you to be a teacher. Even if you do take a teaching class or a pedagogy class like we did, it's a studio art degree. So having said that, though, you need to go into it knowing that that's what it's about. It's not about teaching you how to be a teacher. And there aren't a whole lot of teaching jobs out there to begin with. Just ask a tenured professor. You have to wait for someone to die or get fired or quit. And that kind of thing happens few and far between. There just aren't a lot of those really sweet gigs. And to be able to get them, you kind of have to also have, or you should have, it's not always the case, kind of a pretty humming career happening already, A lot of times at some of the better schools, I think, from what I've been told, they want people who don't really need the job that much. But sometimes you make artwork that's not that commercial or or not that commodifiable, but definitely garners a certain sort of attention that will help, shine a positive light on the program that hires you. The other thing that's really good about, in addition to just like, there's two more things I want to talk about here regarding getting the MFA and if you should get an MFA. One thing is something that I think Jerry Saltz has mentioned, which is it allows you to form a peer group, and that's the sort of peer group, your clique, your group that you meet in graduate school. In some instances, you will carry each other forward after graduate school if you do it right, or if they're interested enough. I'm still in contact with several of my classmates. Once in a while, we've been able to help each other out professionally. And it hasn't been to the extent that I wish it was for several reasons, but I've had a small amount of experience with that myself. I think if I would have gone to I have no problems with the graduate school I went to, and I'm not going to get into all of that right now. It was great for me at the time, but some people might benefit more from that if they're at a school like Columbia, Hunter, UCLA, something in and around New York or LA, but or at least that's the way it was. So yeah, you get to form connections and networks in a certain environment, in a very highly charged, concentrated environment that you never would elsewhere. And that's of a lot of value if you use it. Like everything else, if you take action and use it, right? So finally, regarding getting your MFA and if you should get an MFA, here's the other part about it that I think is important, is that a lot of times that's the environment where you're going to get the kind of criticism, the kind of highly charged, brutal but constructive criticism that you're going to need, and it's harder to come by outside of that environment. And even in that environment, sometimes it's hard to come by. I was talking to someone who was at the same graduate school as me 3 years after me, and his group was just all, patting each other on the back and afraid to sort of take the gloves off, so to speak. So sometimes you have to create that a little bit in that environment, but there's never going to be a better environment to do that if you're ready for it. So I recommend, in short, I recommend getting an MFA. I recommend doing it right, though, and doing it under the right conditions. And a lot of you don't think you need to do that, but I don't know. Just got distracted by a squirrel out there jumping through the yard. Anyway, but I think I found it to be very helpful. But do it strategically, do it under the right conditions. Okay. And then what I just said leads into the third question, which is, do you have any advice for artists that want to get involved in regular critiques? The edible artist who emailed me complained that all of her artist friends in her town were too nice. Well, you're going to get those if you're going to get those in graduate school. Hopefully, they'll be positive. And if going and getting an MFA is not in the cards for you, or you went and got one, and you still feel the need for more of that sort of critique thing, you need to get off your ass and organize it and get the right people in there, And if you're not in a place where you can do that, you need to go find it. With me, I haven't been doing them a lot lately, but I'm open to doing them again right now because I've got. Sorry, I lost you for a second. Sorts of critiques, And if you're getting too many nice people who won't be honest with you about your work, you need to, which is something edible artists complained about, then you need to find the other people. Now, what I was saying a second ago before my connection got cut off was, the last few months I haven't been doing that many critiques because I've been really, really busy in the studio. But now that I got the show out the door, if you email me, I'm happy. You're gonna have to email me. Don't slide into my DMs. But if you email me and you want to have one-on-one critiques, which is different than a group critique, but if you want to have one-on-one critiques, which obviously would not be in person, I'm happy to talk to you about that. And you will get constructive, honest feedback from me that will not be sugar-coated. I'm not worried about your feelings getting hurt or my feelings getting hurt. I'm not necessarily out to hurt your feelings. I'm not necessarily looking to have my feelings hurt either, but I will give you honest, constructive feedback. And I've taught studio critique classes before in a classroom setting. So anyway, that answers that. That's it for today. I'm already coming in at 22, 23 minutes. And I'll take a few questions before we end it for today. And I hope what I offered you today was helpful. I picked a couple of questions that have been asked to me recurringly from people that I never got a chance to get to before, or I don't think I ever got to them before. So I picked questions that have been asked to me repeatedly. So hopefully that helped a few of y'all out there at least. Sip it to Heron, what makes an artwork have presence? I don't know. Magic. The X factor. What kind of a question is that? Sorry, I shouldn't say that. A good teacher would say there's no such thing as a stupid question. And that wasn't a stupid question, but it's like, I don't know, what makes your food taste so good? What makes a movie so good? Why do you respond to a certain color? Keep the questions coming, Sip it to Heron. I don't know. I just snapped. I'm getting some questions, but they're not going to be helpful. They're kind of pedestrian, kind of generic. Ask me something good. Ask me something good. Ask me something that will help other people too. Maybe something that'll help you, but maybe it'll help other people too, huh? Let's help other people here. Jeff.Oxley, I scrolled back and I can't answer your question right now. It's going to make me crazy. I saw your question. Ask me another question. Not better. Ask me another question. Something You are not me and I am not you, so I don't know when you're done. Sipa Taharan asked me, do I like being at my openings? Sometimes, yes. Sometimes I do. It's weird. I've been doing, instead of having, because of the pandemic, it's interesting that you're asking me that question right now because I'm in the middle of openings, meaning normally there's one big giant public opening for the public regardless of where, what city the show's in, right? Or where the show's at. But because of the pandemic, like right now I'm doing a show and they're having several smaller events, several smaller private events. And what's been interesting about that, and I didn't expect this, I had no expectations going into these private super small openings, which is essentially what they are, hyper small openings for under 10 or 15 people. Everyone's in masks. You want plenty of room in the gallery so people aren't breathing too close to each other, so there's social distance. And what's been interesting about these, which I never would have noticed before, is the conversations tend to be more meaningful because the people who are there really want to be there. It's no general public. When you have an opening for the general public, it's a lot of fun and there's no energy quite like it. But in every major city you go to, at every opening you go to, there's a whole layer of people who are there just for the free booze and to make the scene. It's their social life. It's their social hour. They want to look cool. They want to have free drinks. They never bother to look at the art on the walls. And they serve a purpose too. But with the way things are now because of the pandemic, it's so much more highly curated. It's actually a nice change of pace for me, you know. I don't know if I'd want to do this forever, but in this instance, when you're only allowing, the other thing that kind of sucks about doing it this way, and I'm not sure if this is how it's being done with everyone. In some instances, the gallery might have just said, no events, we're just having the show. But in this case, it's actually a little more taxing on myself because I have to show up. I happen to be in the city where the opening is, and so I'm showing up for every event. But that's not necessarily what you want to be doing, but it is what it is. At least the conversations are a little bit more meaningful, you know. So anyway, timely question. Sipa Taharan, you're my hero. You won me back. I think you're the greatest. So, Casey_Matthews_artist. The first one of several went well. Thank you for asking. Although I want to answer more questions that help other people. And gotta. Cuedvela dos. Yo no hablo español muy bien. ¿Tú hablas inglés? Inglés. Okay. Looking for one more goodie. Ian Hardcastle Art. What advice would you give to artists who are starting out? Go watch some of these videos I've been posting since the beginning of the pandemic. They're on my website. Look it up. I will take one more question because we're coming up on about a half an hour. Let's see if I can find one here. Sorry, I'm just stretching my back a little bit while I'm looking for a good question. One of you regulars, throw me a bone. Give me a goodie. Something magical that will help you and everybody else. We should do this now. I'm actually, the glare coming off my head isn't very blinding, so I'm feeling the vibe. Okay. David, this doesn't really count as a question I wanted, but Devin C. Korn, what is the painting behind me? It's an unfinished painting that I forgot was on the wall. I don't mean to show that. The questions are just killing me, man. Okay, Virginia Palmer Art and Majal Home. Listen, inspiration's for amateurs, just like Chuck Close said. Inspiration is for amateurs. Go get to work. And with that, I am going to sign off. Send me some emails with your questions. Thank you. Even though you took an edible, you know who you are. I wish, even though you took me an edible and wrote me a book, I appreciate some of the questions. Send me some questions. Go buy the print, and I will talk to you soon. Thank you for stopping by. All right, bye-bye.